The moment I came to, I was the villain in a trashy web novel. Worse, I was the most pathetic, disposable simp of a villain you could imagine. The story kicks off at my own engagement party, where my fiancée is about to publicly shred our marriage contract and run off with the novel's recently returned hero. I had to laugh. A throwaway character who doesn't even make it past chapter 3 gets a fiancée this gorgeous. Sorry, but that's not happening. As of right now, I'm rewriting this entire script. Your opportunities are mine. Your crew is mine. Your girl. Oh, right. She was mine to begin with. Ethan, we need to call off the engagement. The voice was like a bucket of ice water dumped over my head. I snapped back to reality, my vision sharpening. A woman stood before me, draped in a white evening gown that made her skin look like snow. Her features were so perfect they seemed unreal. Her name was Sophia Hayes, my fiancée. At least, on paper. Right now, those beautiful eyes of hers were filled with an undisguised, ice-cold disgust. The air buzzed with whispers, each one a needle pricking my ears. That Reed kid is such a screw-up. No wonder Sophia can't stand him. Seriously, I heard he does nothing but party and gamble. He's a total disgrace to the Reed family name. If his grandfather hadn't made that deal with old man Hayes back in the day, he'd never have gotten a shot with her. My head was spinning as a flood of memories that weren't mine, crashed into me. Doormat, loser, spoiled brat. A footnote character flattened by the hero's first slap. ED. Been dropped into a book. I'd been transported into the exact cliché-ridden urban fantasy novel I'd been making fun of last night, something called Dragon's Reign. And I was the cannon fodder villain with the same name as me, Ethan Reed, the guy who fights the hero for the girl and gets wiped off the map in the opening act. According to the original plot, at this engagement party, Sophia Hayes would publicly demand we break it off. My character, the devoted simp, would then proceed to beg and grovel, making a complete fool of himself. Then the book's real hero, a special ops legend named Ryan Cross, would make his grand entrance, play the White Knight, and send me flying with a single kick before sweeping the girl off her feet. As for me, I'd be completely ruined in a business conflict 3 days later, my family bankrupt, wiped from the face of Seacrest City for good. Ethan, did you hear me? I want nothing more to do with a person like you. Seeing me dazed, Sophia's voice grew even sharper. She pulled a document from her clutch and slapped it on the table. This is the annulment agreement. Sign it, and we'll be even. I looked at the agreement, then at her resolute face, and a strange sense of amusement washed over me. A character who doesn't even survive 3 chapters gets a goddess-tier fiancé. The author of this thing was seriously out of his mind. Just then, the ballroom doors slammed open, kicked in from the outside with a deafening bang. A man strode in wearing camo pants and a black tank top, his eyes radiating pure arrogance. There he was, the hero of the book, Ryan Cross. Sophia, who dares to force you? Ryan's voice boomed with an unquestionable authority. His gaze locked onto Sophia, completely ignoring me, her actual fiancée. Sophia's mother, my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law Linda Hayes, lit up like a Christmas tree. She scurried over to him, her face plastered with a sycophantic grin. Oh, Ryan, you're finally back. Perfect timing. Sophia is being harassed by this loser. The guests erupted. Is that him? Ryan Cross? I heard he was the top operator in an elite mercenary group overseas. Call sign, Dragon. Look at that intensity. Now that's a real man. Ethan Reed looks like a joke next to him. Seeing Ryan, the icy mask on Sophia's face cracked, replaced by a flicker of emotion. As if she'd found her savior, she shot him a look that screamed for help. Ryan soaked it all in, clearly pleased. He swaggered over to me, looking down his nose with a contemptuous smirk. You're Ethan Reed. He pointed a finger at my face. You have 3 seconds. Sign the paper and get out of Sophia's sight. Otherwise, I don't mind making you disappear from the face of the earth. Here we go. The classic tough guy routine. All eyes were on me, everyone waiting to see the loser piss his pants in terror. Linda's voice cut through the air, shrill and cruel. What were you waiting for? You useless brat. Didn't you hear Ryan? Sign the damn thing and get lost. Don't be an eyesore. I took a deep breath, feeling the faint tremor running through this body, a phantom of its rage and humiliation. The original Ethan was a simp, but I'll be damned if I am. I slowly rose to my feet. At 6'1", I was a good half head taller than Ryan. I didn't look at him. My gaze fell on Sophia. She shifted uncomfortably, a slight frown creasing her brow. "Miss Hayes," I began, my voice quiet but carrying clearly through her corner of the room. "You want to call this off, is that right?" Sophia was taken aback, clearly not expecting me to be so calm. "Yes," she answered coldly. "Fiancée." I picked up the pen on the table and, with 2 quick strokes, signed my name on the agreement. The whole motion was fluid, without a hint of hesitation. Everyone stared, dumbfounded. This wasn't in the script they'd imagined. Wasn't the pathetic loser supposed to cry, beg, and plead? Even Ryan's arrogant smirk faltered for a second, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. I pushed the signed agreement across the table to Sophia, a playful smile on my lips. The engagement can be called off, but, according to the original agreement between our families, the party that breaks the contract is required to compensate the other. I paused, my eyes sweeping over a stunned Ryan and a fuming Linda before landing back on Sophia's flawless face. I spoke each word with deliberate clarity. "I don't want your family's money. Tomorrow, I want the deed to that prime waterfront plot in the South Side District, the one you just won at auction." As my words landed, the room fell dead silent. Everyone stared at me as if I'd lost my mind. The South Side waterfront. It was the most talked-about development project in Seacrest City this year. The Hayes Corporation's flagship subsidiary had just acquired it for a staggering $5 billion, with plans to build a new city landmark. And this loser had the nerve to demand it. He was insane. In your dreams. The first to snap out of it was my mother-in-law, Linda. She shrieked, pointing a finger at my nose. "Ethan Reed, you little parasite. Who the hell do you think you are, trying to get your hands on the South Side waterfront? You must be broke and desperate." Ryan had recovered, now looking at me like I was a clown. He sneered. "A loser's a loser, I guess. Even your daydreams are pathetic. I'll give you one chance. Take back what you just said, slap yourself 100 times, and I can pretend this never happened." He had an expression like he was granting me the pardon of the century. Sophia's frown deepened. Her look of contempt was now tinged with a fresh layer of disappointment. "Ethan, I never realized you were this shameless. It seems my decision to end this was the right one." I ignored their noise, my gaze fixed on the man in charge of the Hayes family, Sophia's father, Robert Hayes. "Mr. Hayes," I said calmly, "when my grandfather and your father drew up the marriage contract, it was written in black and white. If one party breaks the engagement without cause, they must forfeit half of their assets as compensation. I'm only asking for one piece of land. That's not unreasonable, is it?" I remembered a throwaway line in the book about this clause. But the original Ethan, that hopeless simp, had willingly waived all compensation to avoid making things difficult for Sophia. And what did he get for it? Even more ruthless humiliation and destruction at the hands of the Hayes family and Ryan Cross. I wasn't that idiot. Robert Hayes's face turned an ugly shade of gray. The clause did exist. It was an old stipulation from a long-forgotten business merger, one he assumed the Reeds had either forgotten about or, more likely, wouldn't dare to bring up. He never imagined that Ethan Reed, the failure he'd always looked down on, would throw it in his face today, in front of everyone. Half his assets? That would gut the Hayes Corporation. Compared to that, a $5 billion plot of land, while incredibly painful, was survivable. "Ethan, don't push your luck." Linda was still screeching. "Be quiet." Robert Hayes snapped, his face ashen. He stared at me, trying to read my expression. But all he found was a calm he had never seen on this young man's face before. A calm that was deeply unsettling. "Fiancée." After a long moment, Robert squeezed the word out through clenched teeth. "I agree. Our legal team will have the deed transfer agreement delivered to your house tomorrow morning." "Dad!" Sophia and Linda cried out in unison. "A deal's a deal." I smiled. I picked up a wine glass from the table, raised it in a mock toast to Robert Hayes, and downed the red wine in one go. Then I turned the glass upside down and slammed it onto the table. The sharp crack echoed in the silent ballroom. From this moment on, the agreement between our families is void. We owe each other nothing. With that, I turned and walked away, not sparing anyone a second glance. Behind me, I heard Ryan's voice, a low growl simmering with rage. "Stop. Did I say you could leave?" I didn't even turn my head. Who the hell are you to give me orders? An invisible wave of killing intent radiated from Ryan. My complete dismissal had clearly pushed him over the edge. You're asking to die. He lunged, his hand shaped into a claw, slicing through the air as he aimed for the center of my back. This was his signature move, something the book called the Dragon's Claw, a technique that had crippled countless villains. Too bad for him, he was facing me, someone who knew his entire playbook. Just as his fingers were about to graze my jacket, it was as if I had eyes in the back of my head. I took a single, unnatural-looking half-step to the left. That one small movement was all it took. His dragon's claw met nothing but air. Ryan's pupils contracted in disbelief. He couldn't understand how a loser like me had just dodged his can't-miss attack. Not bad reflexes, Ryan sneered, trying to play it off. Guess you worked out a few times. But you think that's enough to get away from me? He pressed his attack again, his movements even more ferocious. The guest scrambled backward, terrified of getting caught in the crossfire. Linda and Sophia watched with anxious faces, convinced I was about to end up on the floor with broken bones, whimpering like a dog. But I just kept dodging. Every single time, just an instant before his attack landed, I'd shift my body with the smallest, most efficient movement, a perfect prediction of his trajectory. To an outsider, it looked like I was dancing on a razor's edge, seconds from being hit. Only Ryan knew the truth. With every swing that missed, he grew more and more shocked. It was as if I knew exactly where he was going to strike before he did, leaving him with the frustrating feeling of punching a fistful of cotton. How is this possible? How can this loser see through my moves? Is that all you can do? Dodge like a rat. Ryan roared, throwing a full-force punch straight at my face. He put everything he had into this one. And yet, just as the punch was about to connect, my foot suddenly slipped. As if I'd tripped on something, my body stumbled backward. Crack! Ryan's fist smashed squarely into the expensive marble pillar behind me. With a deafening boom, spiderweb cracks spread across the solid stone. A collective gasp went through the room. If that punch had landed on a person, their bones would have been turned to dust. Ryan pulled his fist back, his knuckles red and raw. He stared at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of shock and suspicion. I, on the other hand, clumsily scrambled up from the floor, brushing the dust off my suit with a look of lingering fear on my face. Whoa, that was close. Thanks for going easy on me, Mr. Cross. I was thanking him, but inside I was dying of laughter. Going easy on me? You couldn't stop your own punch, you idiot. My trip had been a deliberate step onto a greasy olive a waiter had dropped earlier. It was all part of my plan. Ryan's face cycled through shades of red and white. He knew he'd been played. He wanted to lash out, but in front of this crowd, punching a pillar after his target slipped was already embarrassing enough for a hero. Pressing the issue would only make him look more incompetent. Oomph. You got lucky, Ryan grunted, turning to stand beside Sophia, striking a victor's pose. I couldn't be bothered with this pathetic soap opera. I turned and headed for the exit. As I passed Sophia, I slowed my pace and leaned in, my voice a whisper only she could hear. Just a friendly tip, Miss Hayes. Ryan just got back from a war-torn region in Africa. He might have brought back a few local souvenirs, the kind that only spread through bodily fluids. You might want to be careful. Without another word, I walked out, leaving a room full of complex stairs behind me. Sophia's body went rigid. Once I was outside, the cool night air cleared my head. Acting tough in the ballroom was one thing, but I had a mountain of problems to deal with. The Reed family was basically an empty shell. My deadbeat dad was a gambling addict who had already squandered most of the family fortune. If the Hayes family actually delivered the deed tomorrow, I wouldn't even have the money to start developing the land. The first order of business, get cash. As a reader of the book, I knew about a golden opportunity that was just around the corner. In the original story, the day after getting together with Sophia, Ryan Cross wanders into a place called Heritage Row. There, in a dusty, failing antique shop, he stumbles upon a worthless-looking jade pendant. That pendant contained a sliver of spiritual energy left behind by an ancient cultivator. It could heal the body and cure any disease, but more importantly, it was the key to unlocking a small pocket dimension full of priceless treasures. It was this pendant that set Ryan on the path of urban cultivation, allowing his power to skyrocket as he steamrolled every villain in his path. Now, that opportunity was mine. I hailed a cab and headed straight for Heritage Row. It was late, and most of the shops were closed, with only a few lights still on. Guided by memory, I quickly found the antique shop called Croft's Curios. It was a small place with a crooked sign, looking like it was on the verge of collapse. An old man with a shock of white hair was dozing behind the counter. He'd barely cracked an eyelid when the bell on the door chimed. "Something I can help you with, son? Everything in here is the real deal." I smiled. This old man was Silas Croft. In the book, he was a master in hiding, running this shop as a favor to someone, waiting specifically for the chosen one, Ryan Cross. "Just looking, thanks." I put on my best curious tourist act, poking around the cluttered shop. The place was packed with junk, vases, scrolls, jade pieces, but most of it was fake. My eyes quickly landed on a dusty wooden box in the corner. It wasn't locked. I opened it. Inside lay a palm-sized jade pendant. It was crudely carved from a common piece of greenish-white jade and even had a few natural cracks. It looked like a piece of worthless scrap. This was it. I picked it up. A gentle warmth spread from the jade, and a subtle, warm current flowed through my fingertips and into my body. Incredible. This was the feeling. "Sir, how much for this?" I asked, bringing the pendant to the counter. Silas lifted his gaze, glancing at the pendant in my hand. For a split second, a sharp glint flashed in the depths of his eyes. He hid it well, though, simply shrugging. "Oh, that thing. Picked it up in a bulk lot. It's nothing special. If you like it, you can have it for $50. $50? I scoffed internally. In the book, Ryan also paid $50. But that was because he had plot armor, and Silas was under orders to give him the treasure. Now that I, the villain, was here, would he be so generous? I placed the pendant on the counter and held up 2 fingers. 20,000. Silas froze, his cloudy eyes widening in surprise. "What's that, son?" I said 50. "Let's not play games, mister." "Croft," I said, looking him straight in the eye. "You know what this is better than I do. $20,000 buys me your word. From now on, Croft's Curios recognizes only one chosen one. Ethan Reed. Is that a bad deal for you?" Silas's expression changed completely. He shot up from his chair. A powerful aura, an intense pressure, erupted from his frail body, locking onto me. "Who are you?" This presence was infinitely stronger than Ryan's cheap theatrics. A normal person would have buckled under the force. But I just stood there, my expression unchanged, because I knew he wouldn't dare touch me. Or rather, the person he worked for wouldn't dare. "Who I am isn't important," I said with a faint smile. "What's important is that I know who you're waiting for. But unfortunately for you, he isn't coming. I'll be taking this opportunity now." Silas stared at me, his eyes flickering as he weighed his options. After a long moment, the oppressive aura around him slowly faded. "What? Do you know?" he asked, his voice raspy. "More than you can possibly imagine." I picked up the pendant and tossed it lightly in my hand. "For instance, I know that this spirit-nourishing jade is a one-time key. I also know that your benefactor is currently being hunted by a rival and desperately needs the life weed from that hidden dimension to heal his injuries." Silas flinched as if struck by lightning, pure horror written on his face. Those were the most guarded secrets between him and his master. How could this young man know every single detail? "Now," I said, smiling, "do you still think 20,000 is too much?" Beads of sweat formed on Silas's forehead. He looked at me with a newfound sense of awe and fear, all his earlier condescension gone. "No, not at all," he stammered. "Mr. Reed, please take the jade. The money. I can't accept it. Business is business." I pulled out my phone and zelled him the 20 grand. "Goods are paid for. From now on, we're partners." Yes, of course, Mr. Reed." Silas nodded like a bobblehead. "Done." I pocketed the jade and turned to leave. Just as I reached the door, it swung open again. A familiar figure walked in. Ryan Cross. He was obviously here for the same thing. He saw me, froze for a second, then a cruel smile spread across his face. Well, loser. It seems you've decided to save me the trouble of hunting you down." He glanced at the pendant in my hand, but dismissed it as a piece of junk I'd picked up. He walked straight to the counter. "Old man," he said to Silas, "show me the most valuable thing in your shop." Silas glanced from Ryan to me, his face a mask of conflict. I leaned against the doorframe, a grin spreading across my face. Showtime. Hey, old-timer, didn't you hear me? Ryan's tone turned hostile when Silas didn't respond. Silas wiped the sweat from his brow and forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. Apologies, sir, but the shop is closing for the night. Perhaps you could come back another day. Closing? Ryan frowned and pointed at me. Then what's he still doing here? He's a distant relative of mine, Silas improvised. Relative? Ryan sneered. I don't care who he is. I want what's in this shop. Name your price. I'll buy the whole place. What a big shot. I almost laughed out loud. That's not what you said in the book. Back then you were just some broke mercenary who haggled over $50. It seems losing the Southside waterfront made you desperate to lock down all your future assets. Too bad. You're too late. Silas looked like he was about to cry, shooting a pleading look in my direction. I gave him a slight smile, a silent message to stay calm. Then I clear my throat. That's some impressive talk, Mr. Cross. But I'm afraid you can't buy this shop. Because, as of 1 minute before you walked in, it's already mine. Yours? Ryan looked at me as if I just told the world's funniest joke. He sized me up, his eyes dripping with mockery. You? A loser who couldn't even hold on to his own fiancée? You think you can afford this place? Sophia walked in behind him, having obviously followed him here. When she saw me, she frowned, her expression unreadable. But when she heard my claim, the disdain in her eyes deepened. She clearly thought I was just putting on a brave face, trying to one-up Ryan out of pure spite. Ethan, have you made enough of a scene? She said coldly. Stop doing these pointless things. You're only making yourself look more ridiculous. I ignored her, looking straight at Ryan with a calm smile. Whether I can afford it or not isn't for you to decide. I turned to Silas. What do you say, Mr. Croft? Silas was trapped between a rock and a hard place. He looked at me, then at the intimidating Ryan, and his old face crumpled like a prune. He couldn't afford to offend Ryan's backers, but he was even more terrified of me, the mysterious Mr. Reed, who knew all his secrets. Ryan saw Silas's silence and took it as fear, which only fueled his arrogance. Don't be afraid of him, old man, he said, clapping Silas on the shoulder in a patronizing way. If he threatens you, just let me know. I guarantee he'll disappear from Seacrest City by tomorrow. Silas flinched, nearly collapsing to his knees. Mr. Cross, you misunderstand, he stammered. This shop, it really has been sold to Mr. Reed. The smile on Ryan's face froze solid. Sophia stared, her beautiful eyes wide with disbelief. What did you say? Ryan's voice dropped, turning deadly. Say that again. I said, this shop is now Mr. Reed's property. Silas had made his choice. He was betting on me. The secrets I knew were enough to bring ruin upon him and his master. Impossible. Ryan roared. He's a loser. Where'd he get the money to buy your shop? That, I wouldn't know, Silas said, keeping his head down, avoiding Ryan's gaze. Fine. Very fine, Ryan seethed, pointing at me, then at Silas. The two of you are in this together, trying to screw with me. Is that it? He took a step forward, and the sheer pressure he exuded made Silas stumble backward. I'll give you one last chance, Ryan said, his voice low, meant only for the three of us. Hand over the item in this shop, and I'll let this slide. He was clearly convinced that Silas had deliberately given the treasure to me. I was having the time of my life. The hero's paranoia was truly something else. I dangled the plain-looking jade pendant from my fingers, showing it to him. Mr. Cross, were you looking for this? Ryan's eyes were instantly drawn to it. He stared at the pendant, his expression a mixture of greed and intensity. Even if he couldn't see its power, his instincts told him it was special. Give it to me, he snarled, his tone of command. Give it to you? I laughed. On what grounds? On the grounds that my fist is harder than your face. Before the words were even out of his mouth, Ryan moved. This time, he held nothing back. He launched himself at me like a feral tiger, his fist aimed at my chest, the force of it whipping my hair back. Sophia let out a small cry and shut her eyes. Silas's face went pale. And yet I stood my ground, not moving an inch. Just a fraction of a second before Ryan's fist could hit me, a figure appeared in front of me like a ghost. It was Silas. His withered, frail-looking hand pushed forward. The movement seemed slow, almost lazy, yet it intercepted Ryan's punch with pinpoint accuracy. Thud! A dull, heavy sound echoed in the shop. Ryan's punch, the one that could crack a marble pillar, was stopped dead by Silas's seemingly gentle push. Ryan staggered back 7 or 8 steps as if he'd been hit by a truck, struggling to keep his balance. He stared at Silas, his face a mask of pure shock. You're a grandmaster." Silas retracted his hand, his hunched back straightening. His cloudy eyes now shone with a brilliant light. The timid old shopkeeper was gone. "You flatter me, Mr. Cross," he said calmly. "Mr. Reed is my honor guest. I would ask you to show him some respect." Sophia was speechless. She couldn't believe it. This ordinary-looking old antique dealer was a hidden martial arts grandmaster, and he had just called Ethan Reed his honored guest. What was going on? Who was Ethan Reed? For the first time, Sophia felt a powerful sense of curiosity and confusion about the man she had grown up with, the man she had always dismissed as a worthless loser. Ryan's face was a thundercloud. His greatest asset, his physical power, was useless against this old man. But the most infuriating part was that this grandmaster was on Ethan's side. "Good. You're both very good," Ryan snarled through clenched teeth. "I'll remember this. This isn't over." He knew he couldn't win today. He shot me a venomous glare, grabbed the still-dazed Sophia, and stormed out. Watching them retreat, the smile on my face widened. Stealing the hero's power-up and watching him lose his cool, it was the best feeling in the world. "Mr. Reed, thank you for helping me out of that situation," Silas said, bowing respectfully. "No need to be so formal, Silas," I said, helping him up. "We're on the same team now." I played with the spirit-nourishing jade in my hand, feeling its warm energy, my mood soaring. With this, I had a portable source of spiritual energy. It could strengthen my body and, more importantly, allow me to start cultivating. And then there were the resources hidden in that pocket dimension. "Ryan Cross, you call yourself the dragon. Soon enough, I'm going to turn you into a dead snake." I didn't stay long at Croft's Curios. After exchanging contact information with Silas, I left Heritage Row. It was after midnight when I got back to the Reed family's somewhat neglected mansion. The moment I stepped into the living room, a haggard-looking middle-aged man in expensive but rumpled clothes rushed toward me. It was my deadbeat dad, George Reed. "Ethan, where have you been? I've been looking everywhere for you." He grabbed my arm, his voice frantic. "Something terrible has happened. You have to come with me right now. We have to go to the Hayes' house and apologize to Robert and Sophia." "Apologize?" I frowned. "Yes. Now." George was sweating bullets. "Robert Hayes just called me. He said you caused a huge scene at the engagement party and offended their guest of honor, Ryan Cross. He's canceling all of our business partnerships. That was the last lifeline this family had." I looked at his pathetic, spineless display and felt nothing but contempt. This was the idiot from the book who gambled away the family fortune before jumping off a building. "You go if you want to." "I'm not going." I shook off his hand and headed for the stairs. You ungrateful brat." George trembled with rage. "Do you want to see this family completely destroyed?" I stopped and looked back at him, my eyes cold as ice. "This family wasn't destroyed the moment you gambled it all away. You're worried now? It's too late. From now on, I'm in charge here." My words left George speechless. He pointed a trembling finger at me, his lips moving but no sound coming out, before his arm finally dropped to his side in defeat. I wasted no more time on him. I went to my room and locked the door. Sitting cross-legged on my bed, I held the spirit-nourishing jade in my palm. I closed my eyes and began to follow the most basic energy channeling technique described in the book, trying to absorb the spiritual energy from the jade. A warm current flowed out of the pendant, seeping through my palm and into my veins, spreading throughout my entire body. This body, weakened by years of indulgence, was like a parched field in a drought. Under the nourishment of this energy, it was like a long-awaited rain. Every cell in my body seemed to sing with joy. The fatigue vanished, replaced by an unprecedented feeling of lightness and strength. I could feel my body being reshaped and fortified at an incredible rate. The night passed in silence. The next morning, when I opened my eyes, a sharp light flashed in them for an instant. I looked down at my hands. My skin was smoother, and I could feel a new, vibrant strength coursing through me. I threw a casual punch, and the air whistled. Wasn't even close to a true martial artist level, but compared to the weakling I was yesterday, the difference was night and day. And this was after just one night of absorption. This spirit-nourishing jade was a true treasure. Knock, knock, knock. A frantic knocking came from the door. Young master, the people from the Hayes family are here. Our butler called out. A smile touched my lips. Showtime. I changed into a fresh set of clothes and casually walked downstairs. In the living room, besides my pale-faced father, stood two men in sharp suits. They were from the Hayes Corporation's legal department. The man in the lead forced a stiff smile when he saw me and handed over a folder. Mr. Reed, this is the transfer agreement for the Southside waterfront plot. Please look it over. If everything is in order, you can sign. I took the agreement and flipped through it casually. My father's eyes nearly bulged out of his head. Date? What deed? He stammered. Oh, just compensation for the Hayes family breaking the engagement, I said nonchalantly, then took a pen and signed my name. The two lawyers collected the signed agreement as if they'd been granted amnesty, gave a polite farewell, and practically fled the mansion. After they left, my father snatched the copy of the deed from my hands. When he saw what was written on it, he froze. The Southside waterfront, $5 billion, he muttered to himself, then snapped his head up to look at me, his eyes filled with a mix of shock and delirious joy. How'd you do this? A magician never reveals his secrets, I said, taking the deed back. From now on, I control the family finances. You are never to set foot in a casino again. If you do, you'll face the consequences. George looked at my cold expression and, for some reason, felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't bring himself to argue and just nodded numbly. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, and a respectful voice came through the line. May I ask if this is Mr. Ethan Reed? Speaking. Mr. Reed, good day. My name is Marcus Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries here in Seacrest City. I was wondering if you might be free today. I'd like to treat you to a meal. Thorne Industries. Marcus Thorne. My mind instantly flashed to the book's plot. Marcus Thorne, the wealthiest man in Seacrest City, a titan of industry. In the novel, his health had been failing for years due to overwork, and no doctor could help him. It was the hero, Ryan Cross, who used his half-baked cultivation healing techniques to cure Thorne, earning his unwavering support and cementing his dominance in the city. According to the timeline, this was the point where Thorne's condition was at its worst, when he was most desperate. How did he find me? It had to be Silas. I put the pieces together instantly. Silas's benefactor desperately needed the life weed from the pocket dimension, and the key was in my hands. To get on my good side, they had served up Marcus Thorne on a silver platter. Just what I needed. I was just wondering where I'd get the money to develop the waterfront property. I'm free, I said calmly. You pick the place. Excellent. Excellent. Thorne's voice was filled with excitement. Then let's say noon, at the Pinnacle, in the rooftop revolving restaurant. I will be eagerly awaiting your arrival, Mr. Reed. I hung up, looked at the deed in my hand, and smiled. Ryan, you wanted to use Marcus Thorne to launch your empire. Sorry, I'm hijacking that too. At noon, I arrived at the Pinnacle Hotel. The moment I mentioned Marcus Thorne's name, the manager's expression shifted to one of extreme reverence. He personally escorted me. Mr. Reed, right this way. Mr. Thorne is already waiting for you. The entire rooftop restaurant had been booked out. Through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the whole of Seacrest City sprawling below. A middle-aged man with sallow skin and sunken eyes, looking utterly exhausted, was standing by the window. The moment he saw me, he rushed over. Mr. Reed, you're finally here. Marcus Thorne gripped my hand enthusiastically. His palm was cold and trembling slightly. Mr. Thorne, I said, smoothly retracting my hand. Please sit, he insisted, leading me to the head of the table. The table was already laden with an extravagant feast, but Thorne hadn't touched a thing. He poured me a cup of tea, rubbing his hands together as he looked at me with hopeful eyes. Mr. Reed, I'll be direct. I've invited you here today to ask for a huge favor. Go on, I said, taking a sip of my tea. It's my health. Thorne sighed, his face filled with pain and resignation. To be honest with you, I've been afflicted by a strange illness for years. I can't sleep, I can't eat, and my body is in constant pain. I've seen every top doctor in the world, and no one can find a cause. Mr. Croft told me that you are the only one who can save me. Me? I feigned surprise. Yes, Mr. Croft said you were a man of extraordinary abilities, almost supernatural. The way Thorne looked at me, you'd think I was the second coming. I had to hand it to Silas. He really knew how to build me up. Your illness, I said, setting down my teacup. I can indeed cure it. Thorne was so excited he nearly jumped out of his chair. Oh, really? Mr. Reed, as long as you can cure me, I'll give you anything you want. Half of my fortune, it's yours. Your fortune won't be necessary, I said, waving my hand. I have 2 conditions for my treatment. Name them. Not just 200, anything. I held up one finger. First, I want Thorne Industries to invest $10 billion into a joint venture with me to develop the Southside Waterfront project. We split the profits 50-50. Thorne blinked, then nodded vigorously without a moment's hesitation. Done. Not just 10 billion, 20 billion is fine. I'll have my legal team draw up the contract immediately. To him, any problem money could solve wasn't a problem. His life was what mattered. And the second condition? He asked eagerly. I smiled, looked him in the eye, and slowly stated my second term. Second, from this day forward, Thorne Industries answers to me, Ethan Reed, and me alone. When I say jump, you ask how high. This includes dealing with a certain individual, a man named Ryan Cross. Marcus Thorne's pupils contracted. Ryan Cross. He'd heard the name. The soon-to-be son-in-law of the Hayes family, a rising star in Seacrest City. He, the wealthiest man in the city, was being asked to take orders from a young man and target another prominent figure. The condition was beyond demanding. Normally, if anyone had dared to suggest such a thing, he would have had security throw them out. But now, looking into my deep, calm eyes, he felt no desire to resist. It was a sense of absolute suppression, as if I existed on a higher plane of existence. He had a gut feeling that the young man before him held his life in his hands. Done. After only 3 seconds of hesitation, Thorne gritted his teeth and gave a heavy nod. I agree. From now on, Marcus Thorne, and all of Thorne Industries are at your command, Mr. Reed. Good. I nodded, satisfied. You're a smart man, Mr. Thorne. I took a piece of paper from my pocket. On it was a list of Chinese medicinal herbs. I handed it to him. Follow this prescription. 3 times a day, brewed with rainwater. In 7 days, your illness will be cured. The prescription was the same one Ryan Cross used in the book. Except Ryan, to show off, had made a whole performance out of it with acupuncture and mystical jargon. It was all unnecessary. The illness was just a slow-acting poison. All he needed to do was take the medicine and flush the toxins from his system. Thorne took the paper as if it were a holy scripture, his hands trembling. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thank you for saving my life. He stood up, about to bow deeply. That won't be necessary, I said, stopping him with a gesture. Just remember your promise. Absolutely, I will. The rest of the meal was a pleasant affair. Thorne was incredibly efficient. Before we had even finished eating, his legal team had arrived with the contracts. A $10 billion investment and a partnership agreement for the Southside Waterfront project were signed and sealed on the spot. Looking at the long string of zeros that appeared in my new corporate account, I couldn't help but feel a rush. This was the power of knowing the script. Ryan Cross had to go through all the trouble of healing and befriending Thorne to win his support. All I had to do was leverage what I knew, and with a few words, I had not only taken his prize, but also turned it against him. Leaving the Pinnacle, I was in a great mood. I was about to hail a cab when a red Maserati suddenly pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing a stunningly beautiful cold face. It was Sophia. She had traded her evening gown for a sharp, white business suit, which made her look less distant and more professionally elegant. Get in, she said. Her voice was still cool, but the disgust from yesterday was gone. I raised an eyebrow and got in. The car was filled with the faint, pleasant scent of jasmine. You wanted to see me? I leaned back and closed my eyes. Sophia didn't drive off right away. She was silent for a moment, as if choosing her words. Last night. Thank you, she said suddenly. Thank me? I opened my eyes, surprised. For what? for agreeing to the annulment so easily, or for not taking half of your family's assets. My words made her flinch, and a faint blush crept onto her cheeks. I was talking about what you said to me, she said, her voice dropping. I understood immediately. It seemed she had taken my comment about the African souvenirs to heart. Oh, so you believed me? I watched her, intrigued. I went to the hospital for a checkup, Sophia admitted, biting her lip and avoiding my gaze. The test found a very rare viral agent in Ryan's blood. It's dormant, but the doctor said if it ever activates, the consequences would be catastrophic. A flicker of fear crossed her face. If it hadn't been for my warning, if she and Ryan had actually gotten together yesterday, she couldn't bear to think about it. So, you're here to thank me? I smiled. Sophia was a loss for words. She didn't know how to describe her feelings. She had despised this man her entire life, seeing him as a useless, spoiled playboy. But starting yesterday, he had shattered her perception of him again and again. He had calmly annulled their engagement, faced Ryan's aggression without flinching, and even somehow knew about Ryan's hidden health issue. Then there was that grandmaster antique dealer who treated him with such reverence. And now, he was meeting with Marcus Thorne at the Pinnacle, a place only the city's elite could book. Just how many secrets was Ethan Reed hiding? I just want to understand who you are, Sophia said, taking a deep breath and looking me in the eye. You're completely different. People change, I said simply. I used to be blind, thinking you were some kind of treasure. Now my vision is clear, so of course I'm different. Sophia flinched, a dull ache spreading through her chest, as if my words had physically struck her. Just drive, I said, not wanting to get into it. Take me home. Sophia pressed her lips together and started the car without another word. The rest of the drive was silent. When we reached my house, I was about to get out. Wait, Sophia suddenly said. She took a black card from her purse and handed it to me. What's this? The Southside Waterfront Project. The Hayes Corporation wants to be a part of it, she said, her gaze intense. This is a show of good faith. I know you have the land, but you'll need a professional team for the development. Our company is the best choice. There's $500 million on that card as our initial investment. I looked at the black card and smiled. Interesting. Yesterday, she couldn't get away from me fast enough. Today, she's showing up with a $500 million offer. This is how the world works. When you demonstrate enough value, the people who once looked down on you will come crawling back. But I just secured $10 billion from Marcus Thorne. I didn't need her $500 million. I pushed the card back toward her. We can discuss a partnership, but I don't need your money. What I need is you, Miss Hayes, to personally take charge of this project. Do you dare to accept? Sophia was stunned. She had imagined all sorts of responses. That I would refuse, that I would demand more, that I would use this to humiliate her. She never expected me to make this kind of offer. For her to personally run the project? What? What did that mean? What? What do you mean? Sophia's voice trembled slightly. Exactly what it sounds like, I said, leaning back and watching her. I'm the sole owner of the Southside Waterfront Project, with funding from Thorne Industries. As the majority shareholder, I am officially inviting you, Miss Sophia Hayes, to serve as the project's chief executive officer. I'll pay you 3 times your current salary at your father's company. And, upon the project's successful completion, you will receive a 5% share of the net profits. The terms were beyond generous. A 5% share of a project with an estimated total investment of over $20 billion would be an astronomical sum. It would make her one of the wealthiest people in Seacrest City overnight. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. Logic told her this was the opportunity of a lifetime, an offer no professional manager could refuse. But emotionally, it felt incredibly strange. The man making this offer was the same loser she had just dumped yesterday. Was she really going to work for him? How could she face that? What's the matter? Scared. I watched her internal struggle, a smirk playing on my lips. Or is Miss Hayes just too used to living under her family's protection? Not confident enough to run a project this big on your own? My words were a needle, striking the most prideful and sensitive part of her. She was brilliant and capable, and had always wanted to prove she could succeed on her own merits, not just because she was a Hayes. But her father had always treated her as a pawn for a strategic marriage, never giving her real authority. Who said I'm scared? The words burst out of her before she could stop them. She immediately regretted it. But taking them back now would only prove I was right. She took a deep breath, trying to keep her voice steady. Fine, I accept. She looked me straight in the eye and said, enunciating every word, I will be your CEO, but I have one condition. Name it. On this project, I have absolute managerial and decision-making authority. As the chairman, you cannot interfere with my work without cause. Deal. I agreed without hesitation. I planned on being a hands-off owner anyway. If someone as capable as her was willing to do all the work, I was more than happy to let her. Besides, she was one of the original novel's heroines. Turning the hero's love interest into my subordinate? The thought was thrilling. Then, it's a pleasure doing business with you, Sophia said, extending her hand. Her hand was beautiful, with long, slender fingers. I took it, feeling its soft warmth. The pleasure is all mine, Ms. Hayes. A blush crept up Sophia's neck, and she quickly pulled her hand back. I'll bring my team to your company's office at 9 tomorrow morning, she said, then added quickly, as if to cover her awkwardness, send me the address. I don't have a company, I said truthfully. Sophia just stared at me. Her expression screamed, are you kidding me? A multi-billion-dollar project, and he doesn't even have an office? I will tomorrow, I said with a smile, opening the car door. 9 a.m., top floor of the Commerce Tower downtown. Thorn Industries is lending us their headquarters for now. With a casual wave, I walked into the mansion, leaving Sophia alone in her Maserati, staring after me, lost in thought. Was this man really the same Ethan Reed she thought she knew? Meanwhile, in a private suite at Seacrest City General Hospital, Ryan Cross's face was dark enough to curdle milk. What do you mean, Marcus Thorne refused to see me? He asked his subordinate, his voice dangerously low. Why, yes, Dragon, the man stammered. Mr. Thorne's assistant said he wasn't feeling well today and wasn't seeing any visitors. Not feeling well? Ryan sneered. That sounds like an excuse. He had planned to visit Thorne today, cure him with his skills, and secure the backing of the city's most powerful man. He hadn't even gotten in the door. What about the Hayes family? Did they really give that loser the South Side plot? Ryan demanded. Yes, Dragon. Their legal team completed the transfer this morning. Legally, the land now belongs to Ethan Reed. Crack! Ryan slammed his fist into the bedside table, shattering the solid wood. Loser. Worthless loser. How does he deserve any of this? He roared, his handsome face twisted with rage. He couldn't understand how things had spiraled out of his control. First, the opportunity at Croft's Curios was snatched away. Now, his two most important connections, the Hayes family and Marcus Thorne, were slipping through his fingers. And it was all because of that pathetic loser, Ethan Reed. Dragon, what are our next steps? His man asked cautiously. Next steps? A vicious glint appeared in Ryan's eyes. If the soft approach doesn't work, we go hard. So, the loser got the land? Let's see if he lives long enough to develop it. You, get in touch with Vince Gallo of the Blackstone crew. Tell him to go make some noise at the construction site. And tell him it comes from me, Ryan Cross. Yes, sir. Ryan stared out the window, his expression grim. Ethan Reed, you think you've won? In the face of true power, all your little tricks are a joke. I will show you who the hero of this story really is. The next day, at the Commerce Tower, when Sophia arrived with her elite team, they were all stunned. This was the most prestigious office building in Seacrest City, the headquarters of Thorn Industries. And now, the entire top floor, a lavish 30,000-square-foot office space, had been completely cleared out. A temporary sign at the entrance read, Southside Waterfront Project Office. Marcus Thorne, the richest man in the city, had actually given his own headquarters to the unknown Ethan Reed. Sophia's key staff members looked at her in a new light. They had thought their boss was following some washed-up rich kid on a whim. Now it was clear that this Mr. Reed was a dragon in disguise. Ms. Hayes, you're here. I was already waiting for them, with another man standing beside me. Marcus Thorne. He looked much better today. His skin was still a bit pale, but the light was back in his eyes. He greeted Sophia warmly. Miss Hayes, I've heard so much about you. It's a pleasure to be partners. I look forward to working with you. Sophia was a bit overwhelmed. She knew who Thorne was, but in the past, he had barely acknowledged her. Today, he was treating her with the deference one would show a superior. And it was all because of the man standing next to her. The pleasure is mine, Mr. Thorne, Sophia replied politely. All right, let's get to it. I said, clapping my hands to get everyone's attention. Ms. Hayes, this is Mr. Thorne, our project's other major shareholder. You'll coordinate with him on all financial matters. Mr. Thorne, this is Ms. Hayes, the CEO I've hired to run the entire project. After the brief introductions, I cut to the chase. Ms. Hayes, the project office is now yours. I have only one requirement. Get this project off the ground as fast as possible. Money and manpower are not an issue. Understood, Sophia said, immediately shifting into work mode. She glanced at her team. You have my word, Mr. Chairman. We'll have all preliminary preparations done within 3 days. The first construction crews and equipment will be on site within a week. Excellent. I nodded, satisfied. It was nice working with professionals. Having delegated everything, I prepared to leave them to it. Thorne, ever perceptive, followed me out. Mr. Reed, where are you headed? I can give you a ride. No need, I said. Actually, Mr. Thorne, there is something you can help me with. Anything, Mr. Reed. Just say the word. Thorne puffed out his chest. I need you to run a background check for me. On a local gang called the Blackstone Crew, and their leader, Vince Gallo, I said coolly. That idiot Ryan thought he was being subtle. Too bad for him. Every move he made was already in my script. If you want to play dirty, I was happy to oblige. Thorne paused, his expression hardening as he understood. Consider it done, Mr. Reed. I'll have all the information on your phone within half an hour. 30 minutes later, I was sitting in a coffee shop, reading the file Thorne had sent me, a cold smile on my face. The Blackstone Crew, a local gang that controlled the South Side, making their money from protection rackets and other shady dealings. Their leader, Vince the Bull Gallo, was a thug with some basic fighting skills. In the book, the Blackstone Crew was one of the first groups Ryan Cross brought under his control, using them as his personal muscle. And now, they were planning to cause trouble on my construction site. I dialed Silas's number. Silas, I need a favor. Anything for you, Mr. Reed. I need you to set up a meeting with Vince Gallo of the Blackstone Crew. Tell him Mr. Croft from Heritage Row wants to have a chat. Consider it done. That evening, at 7 o'clock, in the back room of Croft's Curios. The shop was closed, but the lights were on inside. A burly, bald man with a thick gold chain and a face full of angry muscle sat nervously in an old wooden chair. Behind him stood a dozen of his toughest-looking enforcers. It was Vince Gallo, leader of the Blackstone Crew. He was both flattered and terrified to have been summoned by Silas. In the Seacrest City underworld, Silas Croft was a legend. No one knew where he came from, only that even the city's top crime bosses treated him with respect, calling him Mr. Croft. A small-timer like Vince had never even been in the same room with him. So when the call came, he didn't dare refuse, bringing his entire inner circle with him. Mr. Croft, sir, you wanted to see me? Vince asked, wiping sweat from his brow. Silas sat in the main chair, slowly sipping tea, not even bothering to look up. Vince, he said softly, I hear you've taken on a big job recently. Vince's heart dropped. He knows. He knows about Ryan Cross hiring me to trash the construction site. And no, sir, Mr. Croft. I've been keeping my head down. Haven't done anything, Vince lied. Is that so? Silas set his cup down, a cold glint in his eye. That kid from out of town, Ryan Cross. He hired you to cause trouble at the Southside waterfront site. Am I wrong? Cold sweat poured down Vince's back. His legs gave out, and he dropped to his knees with a thud. Mr. Croft, have mercy. Please, he begged, banging his head on the floor. I was forced into it. That's Ryan Cross, the dragon. I can't afford to make an enemy of him. Just then, the curtain to the back room parted, and I walked out. You can't afford to offend him. So you thought you could offend me? I stopped in front of Vince, looking down at him. He looked up and froze when he recognized me. The loser from the Reed family? What's he doing here? You're. From now on, I run the South Side, I said, cutting him off. I'm going to give you 2 choices. 1, you go ahead and do what that so-called dragon told you to do. Go trash my construction site. And I promise you, by sunrise tomorrow, the Blackstone Crew will no longer exist. 2, you work for me. The entire South Side will be your territory. I'll make you rich and powerful, and I'll make sure no one ever messes with you again. I looked at him, my expression calm, but my voice held an authority that could not be questioned. Choose. Vince was completely lost. He looked at me. Then it's Silas, who sat there as if nothing I'd said was out of the ordinary. His brain couldn't keep up. What was happening? The legendary Mr. Croft was backing this washed-up rich kid, and from the sound of it, neither of them gave a damn about the infamous Ryan Cross. Vince Gallo had been around the block. He wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but he knew how to read a room. On one side, you had Ryan Cross, an outsider with a big reputation but no real power here yet. On the other, you had Silas Croft, a true titan of the city's underworld, and his mysterious new boss. This wasn't a hard choice. I choose the second one. The second one. Vince practically screamed it, grabbing my leg and sobbing. Mr. Reed, from now on me, Vince Gallo, and the entire Blackstone crew were yours. You point, we shoot. His men behind him got the message, all dropping to their knees in unison. We pledge our loyalty to Mr. Reed. The sound was so loud it shook dust from the ceiling. Good, I said with a satisfied nod. Get up. I nudged Vince, who was still clinging to my leg. If you're going to work for me, there are going to be some new rules. All your old rackets, shut them down. From now on, you're a legitimate security company, in charge of security for the Southside Waterfront Project. I'll pay you $1 million a month. $1 million. Vince's eyes went wide. All their hustling and fighting barely brought in a couple $100,000 a month, and he had a lot of mouths to feed. Now he was getting $1 million a month just to be a security guard. This was like winning the lottery. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thank you. Vince was so excited he could barely speak, banging his head on the floor again. Don't thank me yet, I said, waving him off. I have another job for you. I leaned down and whispered in his ear. As he listened, Vince's expression shifted from excitement to shock, and finally to a vicious, eager grin. Mr. Reed, you can count on me, he said, pounding his chest. I'll take care of it personally. That punk Ryan Cross is about to find out what happens when you mess with a bull. With the Blackstone crew handled, my mood was even better. Ryan wanted to use the underworld to cause problems for me? I just steal his pawns and turn them into my own weapons. Let's see what he tries next. The next day, Ryan was waiting in his safe house for good news for Vince Gallo. According to his plan, Vince and his crew were supposed to have stormed the construction site, smashing equipment and beating up workers, bringing my project to a grinding halt before it even began. But he waited all morning and then all afternoon, and his phone remained silent. What's going on? Has that idiot made his move yet? Ryan's patience was wearing thin. He dialed Vince's number. It rang for a long time before someone picked up. Yeah, who's this? Vince's lazy voice came through, the sound of mahjong tiles clacking in the background. It's Ryan Cross, Ryan said, trying to keep his anger in check. Vince, how did the job I gave you go? Oh, Mr. Cross, Vince said, his tone dismissive. What job? I'm in the middle of a game here. Kind of busy. A game? Ryan's temper flared. I told you to raid the construction site, and you're playing mahjong. Whoa, hey now, Mr. Cross, watch what you say, Vince chuckled. That construction site belongs to our new boss, Mr. Reed. The Blackstone crew is going legit. We're Gallo Security now, and we're in charge of protecting that site. Smashing things up? That's against the law. We don't do that stuff anymore. Ryan felt like his head was going to explode. Boss? What boss? Did that loser Ethan Reed buy you off? Hey, Mr. Cross, you can say what you want, but don't you dare disrespect the boss. Vince's voice turned to ice. Mr. Reed is a true dragon. Who the hell do you think you are to insult him? Let me give you some advice. Lose my number, and if you ever call me again, I won't be so polite. With a click, Vince hung up. Ryan stared at his phone, listening to the dial tone, completely stunned. He had considered every possibility, except for the one where the man he hired would immediately switch sides. Arg! Ryan let out a furious roar, kicking a nearby table and splintering it into pieces. Ethan Reed, I will kill you. His eyes filled with murderous intent. He pulled out a satellite phone and dialed an encrypted number. This is Dragon. I need you to prepare. I'm activating Project Tartarus. The target is Ethan Reed. I want him and everyone associated with him wiped from the face of the earth. He ended the call, a cruel, sinister smile spreading across his face. Ethan Reed, you think you can fight me just because you won over a few street thugs? You're so naive. Now, I'm going to show you what real power looks like. The kind that comes straight from hell. The next few days were quiet. The Southside Waterfront project moved forward smoothly under Sophia's leadership. The first phase of construction was in full swing, the site buzzing with activity. Sophia proved to be a brilliant and capable executive, managing every detail flawlessly. She worked late every night, sometimes even sleeping in the temporary office on site. Seeing the growing dark circles under her eyes and how much thinner she'd become, I felt a pang of guilt. One evening, I had our family chef make a pot of chicken soup and brought it to the project office. When I arrived, Sophia was the only one still there. She was wearing a pair of elegant gold-rimmed glasses, completely absorbed in the blueprints on her computer screen. She didn't even notice me come in. The light from her lamp softened her features, making her look peaceful and beautiful. I realized, for the first time, that she was captivating when she was focused on her work. Ahem. I cleared my throat gently. Sophia jumped, then relaxed when she saw it was me, quickly taking off her glasses. What are you doing here? Just checking in on our star CEO and bringing you some dinner, I said, placing the insulated container on her desk. Don't work yourself to death. Your health is important. Sophia looked at the steaming hot soup, and a warmth spread through her chest. It had been a long time since anyone had cared for her like this. Thank you, she said softly, her voice tinged with a warmth I'd never heard before. She poured herself a bowl and sipped it slowly. For a moment, the atmosphere in the office was comfortable, almost intimate. By the way, Sophia said suddenly, looking up at me, it's been quiet. Too quiet from Ryan's side. Is that so? I smiled. Maybe he's seen the light and given up. Impossible. Sophia shook her head, her brow furrowed. I know him. He's not the type to give up easily. The quieter he is, the bigger the storm he's brewing. We need to be careful. Don't worry, I said, looking at her with complete confidence. Whatever he's planning, it's not going to work. My confidence wasn't baseless. I knew that Ryan's Project Tartarus was already in motion. Project Tartarus was the ultimate weapon in Ryan's arsenal, the plan he used in the book to annihilate a powerful rival family. He would deploy the elite forces of his overseas mercenary group, the Dragon's Den, to launch a multi-pronged, devastating attack. Assassination, kidnapping, corporate sabotage, media smears. Nothing was off the table. In the book, the target family was wiped out overnight. And now, the target of Project Tartarus was me. But I wasn't worried at all, because on the same day Ryan launched his plan, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from Silas's mysterious benefactor. He told me he had confirmed that the spirit-nourishing jade I possessed was the one and only key to a hidden dimension left behind by his ancient sect. He desperately needed the life weed within to suppress a critical injury. In exchange, he was willing to grant me any one request. My request was simple. I wanted him and his entire hidden sect at my disposal. I wanted him to stop Ryan's Project Tartarus for me. The mysterious master agreed without a moment's hesitation. So, what Ryan thought would be a decisive, crushing blow was, to me, nothing more than a joke. The assassins he sent would be intercepted by the sect's masters long before they got near me. The corporate attacks he launched would be dismantled by the combined forces of Thorn Industries and the Hayes Corporation. The smear campaigns he planted would be snuffed out before they could even spread. He was like a monkey in a glass cage, convinced he was in control, while I stood outside, watching with detached amusement. Ring, ring. Just then my phone buzzed. It was Silas. Mr. Reed the fish. Have taken the bait. A slow smile spread across my face. Reel them in. In an abandoned factory on the outskirts of Seacrest City. Ryan Cross paced back and forth anxiously. Today was the day Project Tartarus was supposed to be in full swing. He had dispatched 3 of the Dragon's Den's most elite teams to assassinate me and to kidnap Sophia and Marcus Thorne. By now, he should have received confirmation of their success. But all 3 teams had gone completely dark, as if they had vanished in a thin air. A sense of unease crept over him. Beep, beep. The military-grade communicator on his wrist suddenly came to life. Ryan's heart leaped. He answered immediately. What's your status? Is the target eliminated? A burst of static, and then a weak, terrified voice came through. Des dragons. We walked into an ambush. What? Ryan felt like he'd been struck by lightning. The enemy. Their cultivators. Their power. It's unreal. Arg. A blood-curdling scream, and then the line went dead. Ryan's face went white. Cultivators. How is that possible? How could a loser like Ethan Reed have cultivators on his side? Was it the old man from the antique shop? No. Even if he was a grandmaster, one man couldn't have taken out an entire elite team. Beep, beep. The communicator went off again. It was the team sent to grab Sophia. Dragon. Help us. We're surrounded. The enemy. There are too many of them. They look like federal agents. Another scream, another deadline. Ryan began to tremble uncontrollably. If the first was a fluke, what was this? Federal agents? How could Ethan possibly have connections like that? Before he could process it, the third communicator beeped. Dragon. Run. Get out of there. Marcus Thorne. The voice cut out. Ryan was in a full-blown panic. His pride and joy, the Dragon's Den, his most elite forces had been completely annihilated in a matter of minutes. And he didn't even know who the enemy was. A primal fear he hadn't felt in years gripped his heart. He felt like he was caught in an invisible net, and the person who wove it was watching him struggle, amused. Run. I have to get out of here. Ryan made a split-second decision, grabbing a go bag and making a break for the factory's back exit. But as he reached the door, he froze. The factory's main entrance, which had been closed, was now wide open. A single, familiar figure stood silhouetted against the moonlight. It was Ethan Reed. He was alone. A faint smile played on his lips, and his eyes were as calm and still as a deep lake. Leaving so soon, Mr. Cross. Where are you off to? Ethan. Ryan's pupils shrank to pinpricks when he saw me. He stumbled backward, his face a mask of pure terror. He couldn't understand why I was here. Even more, he couldn't understand why I was here alone. Your men. Ryan blustered, tried to sound tough. What did you do to my men? Your men. I laughed, a bright, cheerful sound. Oh, they're probably having a nice chat in a place far more suitable for them. Impossible. Ryan shook his head frantically. You're a loser. You could never defeat the Dragon's Den. Who are you? Who's backing you? Even now, he was convinced some powerful benefactor was pulling my strings. Backing me. I took 2 steps forward, closing the distance between us. There's no one behind me. Did you really think I need help to deal with trash like you? My words hit Ryan like a physical blow. You're lying, he shrieked like a cornered animal. You just got lucky. You stole my opportunities. Without them, you're nothing. Am I? My smile widened. I raised my hand, and in my palm, a faint but incredibly pure stream of azure energy began to glow and swirl. Externalizing spiritual energy. The mark of someone who had entered the chi refining stage of cultivation. Ryan's eyes bulged, his jaw dropping, so wide you could fit an egg in it. SP spiritual energy. You're a cultivator too? His world shattered. He had always believed he was the chosen one, the sole cultivator in this world, destined for greatness. But now, the man he had dismissed as a pathetic loser was not only a cultivator, but seemed to be far more advanced than he was. He had struggled to even touch the threshold of cultivation with the energy from the jade pendant. And I could already manifest my energy externally. How is this possible? Now, I said, walking toward him, each step like a drumbeat on his heart. Do you still think I'm just lucky? No. Stay back. Ryan was terrified. Absolutely, completely terrified. He knew that his martial arts skills were a joke in front of a real cultivator. He turned and ran like a coward. But I wasn't about to let him get away. With a flick of my finger, I sent a blade of pure energy whistling through the air. It struck him squarely in the knee. Arg! Ryan screamed and collapsed, the kneecap on his left leg shattered. He tried to crawl away, but the agony was too much. I walked over and crouched down, patting his twisted, fear-stricken face. The dragon? Is this all you've got? You were going to make me disappear from the face of the earth, remember? Well, here I am. I smiled at him, but my eyes were glacial, filled with killing intent. Ryan's whole body trembled. A warmth spread through his pants, and a foul stench of urine filled the air. The great, invincible Dragon King had pissed himself in fear. Don't kill me, he sobbed, groveling on the filthy floor. Mr. Reed? No, Master Reed. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please spare me. I'll be your dog. I'll give you everything I have. Be my dog. I sneered. You're not worthy. I stood up, not giving him another glance. Cripple him and hand him over to the proper authorities, I said calmly, to the empty air. From the shadows, two figures emerged as silently as ghosts. It was Silas and a master from the hidden sect. They bowed to me respectfully, then dragged the still-begging Ryan Cross away like a sack of garbage, disappearing into the night. The era of the hero, Ryan Cross, was over, and I, Ethan Reed, was now the one and only protagonist of this world. After dealing with Ryan, I didn't leave. I walked to a corner of the factory where another man was tied up. It was Chad Peterson, the rich kid who had mocked me at the engagement party. He was Ryan's #1 lackey and had provided the intel for Project Tartarus. He was gagged, and when he saw me approaching, he began to shake violently, his eyes wide with terror. I ripped the tape from his mouth. "And Mr. Reed, please have mercy," he blubbered. "Ryan forced me to do it. It wasn't my idea." "Is that so?" I smiled. "I seem to recall you saying you were going to make me disappear from Seacrest City." No. I never said that. I was just talking trash. Please, Mr. Reed, I'm nothing. Just let me go." Chad was crying, snot and tears streaming down his face. "Let you go." I shook my head. "I can't do that. Actions have consequences." I patted his cheek and whispered in his ear, "Don't worry. I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to make you wish you were dead." The next day, a shocking piece of news spread through Seacrest City's high society. Chad Peterson, the sole heir to the Peterson Group, had gone insane. He was found naked in the Central Plaza, hugging a trash can, laughing and crying and screaming, "I'm garbage. I'm trash." His family hired the best psychiatrist in the country, but nothing worked. The once promising heir was now a drooling madman. Everyone knew there was more to the story, and the word on the street was that it was connected to the newly ascendant young master of the Reed family. Overnight, the name Ethan Reed became a taboo topic in the city, and I acted as if nothing had happened. My days were simple. I'd visit Sophia at the project office, then go home to cultivate. Sophia had heard about what happened to Chad. The way she looked at me now was a complex mixture of awe, curiosity, and a hint of dependency, something she probably didn't even realize herself. She stopped keeping her distance. Sometimes she would ask for my opinion on the project. Other times, when I brought her dinner, she would tell me stories about her childhood. The space between us was slowly, but surely, shrinking. One day, I was in the office with Sophia, looking at the architectural model of our project. Marcus Thorne burst in, out of breath and frantic. "Mr. Reed, Ms. Hayes, it's terrible." "What is it, Marcus?" "Calm down and tell me," I said. It's the Hayes Corporation," he panted. "Robert Hayes' company is in serious trouble." Sophia's face went pale. "My father's company? What happened?" "A major project of the Hayes Corporation has been flagged for critical safety violations and shut down. At the same time, their credit lines have been frozen, and the banks are calling in their loans. Their stock has hit rock bottom. If they don't get an infusion of cash by tomorrow, they're going to be forced into bankruptcy." Sophia swayed, her face as white as a sheet. How could this happen?" I frowned. It was too sudden. That hit me. It was Ryan, or rather, the power behind him. Ryan was broken, but his family was a political dynasty based in D.C. This was their revenge. A warning shot. "Mr. Reed, what should we do?" Marcus asked, looking at me for guidance. I looked at Sophia. She was on the verge of tears, completely lost. I sighed. "Well, she worked for me now." I walked over and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." My voice was quiet, but it held a power that calmed the storm inside her. Sophia looked up, her eyes swimming with tears, as if I were her last hope. "Ethan, it's okay. The sky isn't falling," I said, handing her tissue. "Your father's company will be fine." I turned to Marcus. "Marcus, I want you to use every resource at Thorne Industries' disposal. Buy up every available share of the Hayes Corporation stock on the market, and inform the banks that I, Ethan Reed, will be assuming all of the Hayes family's debt." Marcus nodded without hesitation. "Yes, sir. I'm on it." He turned and left immediately. The office was quiet again, with just the two of us. "Why?" Sophia's voice was choked with emotion. Why are you helping me? We're not. Because you're my CEO? I cut her off, trying to lighten the mood. If you go down, who's going to make money for me? She knew I was just trying to comfort her, and her heart filled with a complex mix of gratitude and confusion. But the people behind this are powerful. I heard. It's the Cross family from D.C., she said, her voice laced with worry. The Cross family? I sneered, a flicker of contempt in my eyes. To me, they're nothing. I took out my phone and dialed the number of the mysterious sect master. Master, I said, I have a small favor to ask. Anything for you, Mr. Reed. Your business is my business, a powerful voice boomed from the other end. Do you know the Cross family in Washington, D.C.? I've heard of them. An insignificant mortal family, really. Good, I said coolly. I don't want to see their name in the headlines tomorrow morning. There was a brief pause on the other end, followed by a single decisive word. Understood. I hung up and looked at the utterly dumbfounded Sophia, a small smile on my face. There. Problem solved. Now, are you going to finish your soup? Sophia's mouth was hanging open. She was completely speechless. One phone call to make a powerful D.C. family disappear from the face of the earth. What kind of power was that? Her entire perception of the world was being rewritten. She looked at the man standing so calmly before her and felt something new blooming in her heart. So this is the real him? The man who can command the storms of the world with a single word? And somehow, she was lucky enough to be standing by his side. The next day, a political earthquake shook the entire nation. The Cross family, a political dynasty that had stood for a century in D.C., was dismantled overnight. The patriarch died of a sudden heart attack. The other key family members were either arrested on corruption charges or committed to asylums, and all their assets were seized by a mysterious, untraceable entity. A giant had fallen, silently and completely. The news sent a shockwave through the country's elite, all of them terrified of the hidden power that could orchestrate such a swift and total annihilation. And the man responsible was sitting in his project office, calmly sipping a cup of tea that Sophia had brewed for him herself. The Hayes Corporation was saved. With Thorne Industries backing, the crisis was easily resolved. Robert Hayes, having stared into the abyss, had completely changed his tune. He called me personally to offer his profuse, groveling thanks, and even hinted at the possibility of Sophia and me getting back together. I just smiled, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Some things were best left to unfold naturally. What are you thinking about? I asked Sophia, who was staring out the window, lost in thought. Nothing, she said, turning back to me, a lovely blush on her cheeks. It feels like I'm in a dream. This isn't a dream. I walked over to stand beside her, looking out at the sprawling city below. From now on, all of this belongs to us. Sophia turned her head to look at my profile, and her heart began to beat faster. She gathered her courage and asked softly, Ethan, can I ask you a question? Go ahead. Do you like me? The moment the words left her mouth, her face turned crimson. She nervously fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve. I turned to face her, looking into her hopeful, anxious eyes. I smiled. I didn't answer with words. Instead, I reached out and gently pulled her into my arms. Sophia's body tensed for a moment, then melted against my chest. She rested her head there, listening to the strong, steady rhythm of my heartbeat. The answer was clear. Outside, the sun was shining. My story was just beginning. 6 months later, the Southside Waterfront project was officially complete. A gleaming skyscraper, the Reed Hayes Tower, now dominated the city's skyline, a shining beacon of the new Seacrest city. At the grand opening ceremony, I, as the chairman, stood beside my CEO, Sophia Hayes. Our hands joined as we cut the ribbon. In the flash of 100 cameras, Sophia's smile was radiant, breathtakingly beautiful. The way she looked at me was filled with a love and admiration that was plain for all to see. We had become the city's ultimate power couple. Marcus Thorne and Vince Gallo, my right and left hands, had also risen to new heights. Thorne Industries, with a few strategic tips from me, had become a global empire. And Vince's Gallo Security was now the top security firm in the country, even taking on government contracts. As for Silas and his hidden sect, after I provided them with the life weed, they pledged their undying loyalty to me, treating me as their supreme leader. Using the resources from the hidden dimension, my own cultivation had progressed by leaps and bounds. I was no longer a novice cultivator. I had become the true king of this world. Everything was proceeding perfectly according to the script that I was now writing. That night, Sophia and I stood on the rooftop of the Reed Hayes Tower, looking down at the glittering city lights below. "It's so beautiful," Sophia sighed, nestled in my arms. "It is," I said, wrapping my arm around her waist and placing a gentle kiss on her forehead. "But not as beautiful as you." Sophia blushed, burying her face happily in my chest. "Ethan, thank you." "For what?" "Thank you for coming into my life and showing me what true happiness is." I smiled and held her tighter. Really, I was the one who should be thanking her. "Thank you for making me real. For turning me from a character on a page into a man with a life to live and a love to cherish." I looked at the woman in my arms, then at the world I had reshaped with my own hands, and felt a sense of satisfaction I had never known before. Reborn as a disposable villain? No. I am a hero. This is my story, my world, and I am in control. End.